Chapter 4 of Stand By for Mars. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Sean O'Hara. Stand By for Mars by Carey Rockwell. Chapter 4. The first 3 weeks of an Earthworm's life at Space Academy are filled with never-ending physical training and conditioning to meet the rigors of rocket flight and life on distant planets. And under the grueling pressure of 14-hour days, filled with back-breaking exercises and long, forced marches, very few of the boys can find anything more desirable than sleep, and more sleep. Under this pressure, the friction in Unit 42D became greater and greater. Roger and Astro continually needled each other with insults, and Tom gradually slipped into the role of arbiter. Returning from a difficult afternoon of endless marching in the hot sun, with the prospect of an evening of free-fall wrestling before them, the three cadets dragged themselves wearily into the slide stairs leading up to their quarters, their muscles screaming for rest. "Another day like this," began Astro listlessly, "and I'm going to melt down to nothing. Doesn't McKenny have a heart?" "No, just an asteroid," Tom grumbled. "He'll never know how close he came to getting a space boot in his face when he woke us up this morning. Ah, man, was I tired." "Stop complaining, will you?" snarled Roger. "All I've heard from you two space crawlers is gripes and complaints." "If I wasn't so tired, Roger," said Astro, "I'd give you something to gripe about. A fat lip." "Knock it off, Astro," said Tom wearily. The role of keeping them apart was getting tiresome. "The trouble with you, Astro," pursued Roger, "is that you think with your muscles instead of your head." "Yeah, I know. And you've got an electronic calculator for a brain. All you have to do is push a button and get the answer all laid out for you." They had reached their quarters now and were stripping off their sweat-soaked uniforms in preparation for a cool shower. "You know, Roger," continued Astro, "you've got a real problem ahead of you." "Any problem you think I have is no problem at all," was the cool reply. "Yes, it is," insisted Astro. "When you're ready for your first hop into space, you won't be able to make it." "Why not?" "They don't have a space helmet in the Academy large enough to fit that overinflated head of yours." Roger turned slowly and spoke to Tom without looking at him. "Close the door, Corbett." "Why?" asked Tom, puzzled. "Because I don't want any interruptions. I'm going to take that big hunk of Venusian space junk apart." "Anything you say, you big-mouthed squirt," roared Astro. "Hey, knock it off!" yelled Tom, jumping between them and grabbing Astro's arm. "If you guys don't lay off each other, you're going to be thrown out of the Academy, and I'll be thrown out with you. I'll be blasted if I'll suffer for your mistakes." "That's a very interesting statement, Corbett." A deep voice purred in the doorway, and the three boys whirled to see Captain Strong walk into the room. His black and gold uniform fitting snugly around his shoulders betrayed his latent strength. "Stand to, all of you." As the boys quickly snapped to attention, Strong eyed them slowly and then moved casually around the room. He picked up a book, looked out the window port, pushed a boot to one side, and, finally, removed Tom's sweat-stained uniform from a chair and sat down. The cadets held their rigid poses, back stiff, eyes looking straight ahead. "Corbett," snapped Strong. "Yes, sir?" "What was the meaning of that little speech I heard a moment ago?" "I don't quite understand what you mean, sir," stumbled Tom. "I think you do," said Strong. "I want to know what provoked you to make such a statement." "I'd rather not answer that, sir." "Don't get cute, Corbett," barked Strong. "I know what's going on in this unit. Were Manning and Astro squaring off to fight?" "Yes, sir," replied Tom slowly. "All right. At ease, all of you," said Strong. The three boys relaxed and faced the officer. "Manning, do you want to be a successful cadet here at the Academy?" "Yes, sir," answered Roger. "Then why don't you act like it?" asked Strong. "Is there something wrong with my work, sir?" Tom recognized the smooth Manning confidence begin to appear, and he wondered if Captain Strong would be taken in. "Everything's wrong with your work," barked Strong. "You're too smart. Know too much." He stopped short and then added softly with biting sarcasm, "Why do you know so much, Cadet Manning?" Roger hesitated. "I've studied very hard. Studied for years to become a space cadet," he replied. "Just to be a cadet? Or a successful cadet and Solar Guard officer?" "To be successful at both, sir." "Tell me, Manning, do you have any ideas on life?" "That's a pretty general question, sir. Do you mean life as a whole, or a specific part of life?" They're fencing with each other, thought Tom. He held his breath as Strong eyed the relaxed, confident cadet. "A spaceman is supposed to have but one idea in life, Manning. And that idea is space." "I see, sir," replied Roger as a faraway look came into his eyes. "Yes, sir, I have some ideas about space." "I'd like to hear them," requested Strong coldly. "Very well, sir." Roger relaxed his shoulders and leaned against the bunk. "I believe space is the last frontier of man, Earthman. It's the last place for man to conquer. It's the greatest adventure of all time, and I want to be part of that adventure." "Thank you, Manning." Strong's voice was even colder than before. "But as it happens, I can read too." That was a direct quote from the closing paragraph of John Buliker's book on his trip to the stars. He paused. Couldn't think of anything original to say?" Roger flushed and gritted his teeth. Tom could hardly keep himself from laughing. Captain Strong had scored heavily. "Astro, where in the name of the universe did you get an idea you could be an officer in the Solar Guard?" "I can handle anything with push in it, sir." Astro smiled his confidence. "Know anything about hyperdrive?" No, sir." "Then you can't handle everything with, as you say, push in it," snapped Strong.
No, sir,"
answered Astro, his face clouding over. There was a long moment of silence while Strong lifted one knee, swung it over the arm of his chair, and looked steadily at the two half-naked boys in front of him. He smiled lazily. "Well, for two Earthworms, you've certainly been acting like a couple of space aces." He let that soak in while he toyed with the gleaming Academy ring on his finger. He allowed it to flash in the light of the window port, then slipped it off his finger and flipped it over to Corbett. "Know what that is?" he asked the curly-haired cadet. "Yes, sir," replied Tom. "Your Academy graduation ring." "Uh-huh. Now give it to our friend from Venus." Tom gingerly handed Astro the ring. "Try it on, Astro," invited Strong. The big cadet tried it on all of his fingers, but couldn't get it past the first joint. "Give it to Manning." Roger accepted the ring and held it in the palm of his hand. He looked at it with a hard stare, then dropped it in the outstretched hand of the Solar Guard officer. Placing it on his finger, Strong spoke casually. "All units design their own rings. There are only 3 like this in the universe. One is drifting around in space on the finger of Sam Jones. Another is blasting a trail to the stars on the finger of Eddie Garcia." He held up his finger. "This is the 3rd one." Strong got up and began to pace in front of the boys. "Eddie Garcia couldn't speak a word of English when he first came to the Academy. And for 8 weeks, Sam and I sweated to figure out what he was talking about. I think we spent over 100 hours in the galley doing KP because Eddie kept fouling things up. But that didn't bother us because we were a unit. Unit 33V, class of 2338. Strong turned to face the silent cadets. "Sam Jones was pretty much like you, Astro. Not as big, but with the same love of that power deck. He could always squeeze a few extra pounds of thrust out of those rockets. What he knew about astrogation and control, you could stick on the head of a pin. On long flights, he wouldn't even come up to the control deck. He just sat in the power hole singing loud, corny songs about the Arkansas mountains to those atomic motors. He was a real power deck man, but he was a unit man first. The only reason I'm here to tell you about it is because he never forgot the unit. He died saving Eddie and myself." The room was still. Down the long hall, the lively chatter of other cadets could be heard as they showered and prepared for dinner. In the distance, the rumble of slidewalks and test firing of rockets at the spaceport was dim, subdued, powerful. "The unit is the backbone of the Academy," continued Strong. "It was set up to develop 3 men to handle a Solar Guard rocket cruiser. 3 men who could be taught to think, feel, and act as one intelligent brain. 3 men who would respect each other and who would depend on each other. Tomorrow you begin your real education. You will be supervised and instructed personally. Many men have contributed to the knowledge that will be placed in front of you. Brave, intelligent men who blasted through the atmosphere with a piece of metal under them for a spaceship and a fire in their tail for rockets. But everything they accomplish goes to waste if this unit can't be a single personality. It must be a single personality or it doesn't exist. The unit is the ultimate of hundreds of years of research and progress. But you have to fight to create it and keep it living. Either you want it, or you get out of the Academy." Captain Strong turned away momentarily, and Tom and Astro looked at Roger significantly. "Stand to!" The 3 boys snapped to attention as the wide-shouldered captain addressed them again. "Tomorrow you begin to learn to think as a single brain, to act with combined intelligence as one person. You either make up your minds to start tomorrow, or you report to Commander Walters and resign. There isn't any room here for individuals." He stepped to the door and paused. "One more thing. I've been given the job of making you over into spacemen. I'm your unit commander. If you're still here in the morning, I'll accept that as your answer. If you think you can't take," he paused, "what I'm going to dish out, then you know what you can do. And if you stay, you'll be the best unit, or I'll break you in 2 in the attempt. Unit dismissed." And he was gone. The 3 cadets stood still, not knowing quite what to do or say. Finally Tom stepped before Astro and Roger. "Well," he said quietly, "how about it, you guys? Are you going to lay off each other now?" Astro flushed, but Roger eyed Corbett coolly. "Were you really taken in by that space gas, Tom?" He turned to the shower room. "If you were, you're even more childish than I thought. A man died to save another man's life, Roger. Sam Jones. I never knew him, but I've met Captain Strong, and I believe that he would have done the same thing for Jones." "Very noble," commented Roger from the doorway. "But I'll tell you this, Manning," said Tom, following him, fighting for self-control. "I wouldn't want to have to depend on you to save my life, and I wouldn't want to be faced with a situation where I would have to sacrifice mine to save yours." The Academy regs say the man on control deck is boss of the unit. But I have my private opinion of the man who has that job now." "What's that supposed to mean?" asked Tom. "Just this, space boy. There's a gym below where I'll take you and your big friend on, together or one at a time." He paused, a cold smile twisting his lips. "And that offer is good as of right now." Tom and Astro looked at each other.
I'm afraid, began Astro slowly, that you wouldn't stand much of a chance with me, Manning. So if Tom wants a chance of buttoning your lip, he's welcome to it.
"Thanks, Astro," said Tom evenly. "It'll be my pleasure." Without another word, the three cadets walked out of the door.
End of Chapter 4